The reservation was for 7 o'clock at Meridian, the most expensive restaurant in the city, where a single dinner could cost more than most people's monthly rent. I arrived at 6:45 wearing khakis and a button-down shirt from Old Navy, and found my family already gathered in the private dining room, all 11 of them, dressed in designer labels and dripping with jewelry that cost more than cars. "What are you doing here?" my sister Jennifer asked, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she gestured dismissively at me. "This is a business dinner." "I got the invitation," I said, pulling out my phone to show the email from my mother's assistant. "Family Business Strategy Dinner, 7 p.m. attendance requested." My mother, Patricia Morrison, CEO of Morrison Holdings, set down her wine glass with a sharp click. She wore a navy Chanel suit that probably cost $15,000, and her expression carried the same cold disapproval I'd seen my entire life. "This dinner is for actual business people," she declared, her voice cutting through the low murmur of conversation. "Not dreamers." My father, Richard Morrison, nodded from his seat at the head of the table. He'd retired as CFO 3 years ago but still maintained his board position and his air of absolute authority. "Sarah, you need to know your place. This dinner is for family members involved in the business. You make pottery in your garage." "I make ceramics," I corrected quietly. "There's a difference." "Not one that matters," Jennifer said. She was VP of Marketing, having married into her position through connections rather than competence. "We're discussing the acquisition of Techline Industries. A $200 million deal. What could you possibly contribute to that conversation?" My brother Michael, the COO, didn't even look up from his phone. "Mom's right. You don't belong here. This is embarrassing." I counted 8 family members at the table. My parents, 3 siblings, 2 spouses, and my uncle Robert, who served as general counsel. They all held positions in Morrison Holdings, the family empire my grandfather had built from a small manufacturing company into a diversified conglomerate worth $1.2 billion. And they all looked at me with varying degrees of disdain or pity. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," I tried again. "The only misunderstanding," my mother cut me off, "is you thinking you have any relevance to this discussion. You opted out of the family business 15 years ago when you decided to pursue your little art hobby. You don't get to opt back in when it's convenient." "I didn't opt out," I said. "I chose a different path." "A path that leads nowhere," my father said flatly. "You're 37 years old, Sarah. You live in a rental house. You drive a used Subaru. You sell coffee mugs at craft fairs. Meanwhile, your siblings are running a billion-dollar enterprise." My youngest brother, Thomas, who'd just been promoted to VP of Operations despite having worked at the company for only 2 years, smirked. "Maybe she's here hoping for a handout. Are you finally ready to admit your pottery thing failed?" "My ceramic studio is doing fine," I said evenly. "Fine," Jennifer repeated with a laugh. "That's the difference between you and us, Sarah. We don't aim for fine. We aim for exceptional. Market-leading. Industry-defining." "Speaking of which," my uncle Robert interjected, "we should begin. The Techline deal has time-sensitive components." He looked at me pointedly. "Sarah, this really is a closed meeting. Family members with active business roles only." "I have an active business role," I said. My mother actually laughed. "Selling mugs at farmers markets doesn't count as an active business role." "I also sell at galleries," I said. "And online. And through wholesale distributors." "How much do you make a year from that?" my father asked, his tone making it clear he already knew the answer would be insufficient. 30,000? 40? Your siblings are managing departments with annual budgets in the tens of millions. "Last year my ceramics business grossed about 75,000, I admitted. The table erupted in barely suppressed laughter. Thomas didn't even try to suppress his. 75,000, my mother repeated. "Your sister Jennifer's clothing budget is 75,000. Your brother Michael's car cost more than you earned all year. And you think you belong in a meeting about a $200 million acquisition? Maybe we should get security," Jennifer suggested. "This is getting sad." I pulled out my phone. "Before you do that, I need to make a quick call." "Oh my God," Thomas groaned. "Is this a performance piece? Are you going to call your pottery guild for moral support?" I ignored him and dialed a number I had on speed dial. It rang twice before someone answered. Douglas? It's Sarah Morrison. I need you to execute option 7. Sell all $290 million in holdings. It's all of them. Morrison Holdings, Morrison Manufacturing, Morrison Real Estate Trust, and Morrison Ventures. Every single share. Liquidate the entire position. The room went silent. Douglas Pemberton, Senior Managing Partner at Whitmore Investment Group, didn't hesitate. That's the complete Morrison portfolio. Are you certain? Completely certain, I said. Contact the other firms too. I want every share I own in any Morrison entity sold by market close tomorrow. No exceptions. That will require board notification, Douglas said. You own controlling interests in 3 subsidiaries and significant positions in the parent company. Then notify them, I said. Actually, they're sitting right in front of me. Their phones should be ringing in about 30 seconds. I ended the call. My father's phone buzzed first. Then my mother's. Then my uncle's. Then Jennifer's, Michael's, and Thomas's in rapid succession. They all looked at their screens simultaneously, and I watched the color drain from every face at the table. What did you do? My mother whispered, staring at her phone. I'm exercising my rights as a shareholder, I said calmly. Something I should have done years ago, but I kept hoping you'd eventually see me as something other than an embarrassment. My father was reading his notification, his hands shaking slightly. This can't be right. It says Sarah Morrison controls 47% of Morrison Holdings through various investment vehicles. 47.3% to be precise, I corrected. I'm the largest single shareholder. Grandpa made sure of that before he died. That's impossible, Jennifer said. The company went public. The shares were distributed among family members. Most of them were, I agreed. But Grandpa kept a controlling block in a private trust. He gave it to me on my 21st birthday along with about $80 million in liquid assets. He told me to invest wisely and never let the family know unless I absolutely had to. My Uncle Robert was scrolling frantically through his phone. This is showing Morrison Manufacturing, 62% owned by Clearwater Holdings LLC. Morrison Real Estate Trust, 55% owned by Pacific Ventures LP. Morrison Ventures, 71% owned by Cascade Investment Group. All entities I control, I confirmed. Grandpa taught me to structure investments through multiple vehicles for tax efficiency and privacy. Apparently, it also worked for keeping my actual net worth hidden from judgmental family members. My mother's face had gone from pale to red. Your grandfather gave you $80 million? When? 16 years ago, I said. He told me he was disappointed in how the rest of the family had turned out. Too focused on appearances, not enough on substance. He said you'd all forgotten that Grandpa started Morrison Holdings by making quality products, not by wearing expensive suits and looking down on people. So you've been sitting on this fortune for 16 years? Michael demanded. While we all thought you were broke? I'm not broke, I said. I never was. My ceramic studio isn't a failure. It's a hobby I genuinely enjoy. I don't need it to support me because I have a diversified investment portfolio currently valued at approximately $290 million, most of which is invested in Morrison entities. Was invested, my father said hoarsely, still staring at his phone. You just ordered it all sold. That's correct, I said. I called Douglas Pemberton at Whitmore Investment Group. I also have holdings managed by Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. I'm calling them next to liquidate those positions too. Thomas looked genuinely panicked. You can't do that. If you dump that many shares at once, it'll tank the stock price. I'm aware, I said. The market will interpret a major shareholder completely exiting their position as a lack of confidence in the company's future. Stock price will probably drop 15 to 20% in the first day alone. That's market manipulation, Jennifer exclaimed. No, my Uncle Robert said quietly, his legal mind working through the implications. It's not. She's entitled to sell her shares whenever she wants. She's notifying the board as required by SEC regulations. Everything she's doing is completely legal. My mother stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. Sarah, you can't do this. Do you know what this will do to the company? To the family? I imagine it will significantly reduce your net worth, I said. And probably make the Techline acquisition much more difficult, since your stock price will be in free fall and your access to capital will be constrained. Why? My father asked. Why are you doing this? Because this dinner is for actual business people, I said, echoing my mother's words. And you just made it very clear that I don't qualify. So I'm removing my business from your business. Simple as that. My phone rang. I answered it on speaker. Ms. Morrison, this is Catherine Zhou from Goldman Sachs. We just received notification from Whitmore Investment Group about a mass liquidation order. Can you confirm you want us to proceed with selling your Morrison Holdings positions as well? Confirmed, I said. Sell everything. Every Morrison-related asset in every portfolio you manage for me. That's approximately $93 million across multiple funds, Catherine said. Combined with the Whitmore positions, you're liquidating roughly $380 million in total assets. My brother Michael made a choking sound. Wait, my mother said desperately. Just wait. Let's talk about this. How you want to talk, I observed. 30 seconds ago you wanted security to remove me. Ms. Morrison? Catherine was still on the line. Should I proceed? I looked at my family. My father had his head in his hands. Jennifer was frantically typing on her phone, probably to her broker. Thomas looked like he might be sick. Michael had gone completely pale. My uncle Robert was the only one maintaining composure, though his jaw was tight. Sarah, my mother said, and for the first time in my memory her voice held actual emotion instead of cold criticism. Please. Let's discuss this rationally. I've been trying to discuss things rationally for 15 years, I said. Every time I've reached out you've dismissed me. Every family gathering you've made jokes about my little pottery hobby. Every business update, you've made it clear I wasn't important enough to be included. We didn't know, Jennifer said weakly. You didn't ask, I corrected. You assumed. You saw my used car and rental house and decided you knew everything about my life. It never occurred to you that I might choose to live modestly. That I might invest my money instead of spending it on status symbols. Ms. Morrison? Catherine prompted again. My father looked up. What do you want? Name it. What will it take for you to cancel this order? I want you to understand something, I said quietly. I don't need you. I never needed you. Grandpa made sure of that. He gave me enough resources to live any life I wanted, and I chose this one. I chose to make ceramics because I love it. I chose to live in a small house because it's enough space for me. I chose to drive a practical car because I don't need to impress anyone. We understand, my mother said quickly. We were wrong. We were incredibly wrong. Catherine, I said into the phone, hold the order for now. But keep everything queued and ready to execute. Understood, Catherine said. We'll maintain the positions but keep the sell orders prepared. Just say the word. I ended the call and looked at my family. Here's what's going to happen. All of you are going to sit down and actually listen to me speak. For the first time in 15 years, you're going to treat me like I have something valuable to contribute. And then we're going to discuss whether I want to remain invested in Morrison Holdings or whether I'd rather take my $290 million and invest it in companies run by people who value substance over appearance. They sat. Every single one of them, including my mother, sank back into their chairs like chastened children. The Techline acquisition is a mistake, I said. I've reviewed the financials. You're paying too much for a company with declining market share and aging technology. You're doing it because it looks good. Techline has name recognition and a prestigious client list. But their fundamentals are weak. How do you know their fundamentals? Michael asked. Because I've been receiving board packets for every Morrison entity for the past 16 years, I said. Grandpa's trust stipulated that I receive all shareholder communications. I read every quarterly report, every strategic plan, every acquisition proposal. I just didn't vote or attend meetings because I wanted to see if you could succeed without my interference. And, my father asked carefully. You've done well in some areas, I admitted. The real estate division has been particularly successful. But you've also made several questionable decisions driven by ego rather than strategy. This Techline acquisition is the worst one yet. My uncle Robert leaned forward. What would you suggest instead? There's a smaller firm called Innovate Tech, I said. Half the price of Techline, but with better technology and a younger, more innovative team. They don't have the name recognition, but they have the substance. Morrison Holdings built its reputation on quality and innovation. Acquiring Innovate Tech fits that legacy. Techline is just expensive window dressing. I've heard of Innovate Tech, Thomas said slowly. They developed that new cloud infrastructure platform, which is currently being adopted by 3 Fortune 100 companies, I confirmed. In 5 years they'll be worth more than Techline. Right now, you could acquire them for $90 million instead of spending $200 million on a declining asset. My mother and father exchanged glances. For the first time, I saw them actually considering my words instead of dismissing them. You've really been following the company this whole time? Jennifer asked. Every quarter, I said. Every board meeting, every strategic initiative. I know Morrison Holdings as well as any of you. I just didn't feel the need to prove it until you made it clear my opinion was worthless. My father cleared his throat. If we were to consider your advice on the acquisition, would you maintain your investment position? That depends, I said. On whether this is a temporary change because you're scared of losing money, or a permanent change in how you see me and my role in this family. A permanent change, my mother said. She looked uncomfortable saying it, like the words physically pained her, but she said it anyway. You're right. We've been terrible to you. For years. We made assumptions and we were cruel about them. You were, I agreed. You judged me for living simply while you spent money on things designed to impress people you don't even like. You mocked me for doing work I love instead of work that pays 6 figures. You decided my worth based on my car and my house instead of my character or my capabilities. We're sorry, Jennifer said, and she actually sounded like she meant it. Genuinely sorry. I studied them all. My mother looked smaller somehow, her expensive suit unable to provide the armor of superiority she usually wore. My father seemed older, the weight of his misjudgment visible in every line of his face. My siblings had lost their smirks and their casual cruelty, replaced by something that looked almost like respect. I'll maintain my investment positions, I said finally. On 3 conditions. Name them, my Uncle Robert said immediately. First, I want a board seat. Grandpa's trust entitles me to one, but I never claimed it. I'm claiming it now. I want a voice in major decisions. Agreed, my father said without hesitation. Second, the family stops making decisions based on appearances and starts making them based on sound business principles. That means no more acquisition targets chosen because they sound impressive to your golf buddies. No more hiring family members who aren't qualified for their positions. I looked pointedly at Thomas. Hey, Thomas started to protest. You were promoted to VP of Operations after 2 years with the company, I interrupted. Most VPs have 10 to 15 years of experience. You got the job because your family, not because you earned it. Thomas opened his mouth, then closed it. He couldn't argue because we both knew it was true. Third condition? My mother asked. I want to be treated like a member of this family, I said simply. Not the embarrassing relative you tolerate at holidays. Not the failure who couldn't hack it in the real world. An actual family member whose choices you respect, even if you don't understand them. The room was silent for a long moment. Done, my father said. All 3 conditions. You have a board seat, will make more strategic decisions, and you'll be treated with the respect you deserve. Starting now, my mother added. Sarah, would you stay for dinner? We'd value your input on the Innovate Tech acquisition. I pulled out my phone and called Catherine Zhou back. Cancel the liquidation order. Maintain all positions. Confirmed, Catherine said. Positions maintained. I'll send you the updated portfolio summary in the morning. I ended the call and sat down at the table, not in my original seat at the far end, but in an empty chair closer to the center. My family rearranged themselves to make room, their movements uncertain but deliberate. A waiter appeared and I ordered the salmon. My mother ordered another bottle of wine, a $3,000 Bordeaux that she insisted I try. Tell us about Innovate Tech, my Uncle Robert said, pulling out his tablet. You said they're being adopted by Fortune 100 companies? I spent the next 20 minutes walking them through Innovate Tech's technology, their market position, their growth trajectory, and why they represented a better strategic fit than Techline. My family listened, taking notes and asking intelligent questions. The cloud platform alone could generate recurring revenue of $50 million annually within 3 years. I explained. Techline's revenue is flat. They're living on legacy contracts that won't renew forever. Why didn't our analysis team catch this? Michael asked. They did, I said. It's in the appendix of the acquisition proposal, page 47. But the recommendation was to proceed with Techline anyway because of their market reputation. My father looked embarrassed. I didn't read that far. Neither did I, Jennifer admitted. I read the whole thing, I said. All 63 pages. Because unlike you, I don't have a team of assistants summarizing documents for me. I have to do my own research. You have $290 million, Thomas pointed out. You could hire a whole team of assistants. I could, I agreed. But then I'd lose touch with the details. Grandpa taught me that. He said the moment you stop reading the full reports is the moment you stop understanding your business. Grandpa was a smart man, my Uncle Robert said quietly. He was, I agreed. He was also disappointed in most of you. He told me that before he died. He said you'd forgotten what made Morrison Holdings successful in the first place. Quality products, smart decisions, and treating people with dignity regardless of their position. My mother winced. He said that. He did, I confirmed. He said the company had become more about status than substance. That you'd all started valuing the appearance of success over actual success. That's why he gave me the money and the controlling shares. He hoped I'd remember what he taught me and use it when the time came. The time has come, my father said. Clearly. We spent the rest of dinner discussing business strategy. I shared my analysis of several other opportunities I'd been tracking. A small manufacturing firm with innovative processes, a real estate development in an emerging market, a technology startup developing AI tools for industrial applications. My family took notes, asked questions, and for the first time in my adult life, treated me like I had valuable knowledge to share. By the time dessert arrived, the atmosphere had shifted completely. Jennifer asked about my ceramics work with genuine interest rather than condescension. Michael wanted to know how I'd learned to analyze companies so effectively. Thomas admitted he felt overwhelmed by his VP position and asked if I'd be willing to mentor him. I'd be happy to, I told Thomas. But you need to be willing to put in the work. Read every report. Understand every department. Learn the business from the ground up, not from the executive floor down. I will, Thomas promised. I swear. As dinner ended and the waiter brought the check, which my mother paid without comment or complaint, my father stood and cleared his throat. Sarah, I need to say something. On behalf of all of us. He gestured to the table. We've been fools. Blind, arrogant fools. We looked at your life and saw failure when we should have seen success. We saw your choices as weakness when they were actually strength. You had the courage to live authentically while we've been performing for an audience that doesn't even matter. Well said, my Uncle Robert murmured. We can't undo the past 15 years, my father continued. We can't take back the cruel things we've said or the dismissive way we've treated you. But we can do better moving forward. We can be the family Grandpa hoped we'd be. If you'll give us the chance. I looked at them all, my mother with tears in her eyes, my siblings looking genuinely remorseful, my uncle nodding encouragement. They weren't perfect. They'd probably slip back into old patterns sometimes. But they were trying and that mattered. I'll give you the chance, I said. But understand this. I'm not changing my life to accommodate your expectations. I'm still going to make ceramics. I'm still going to live in my rental house and drive my Subaru. I'm still going to shop at Old Navy and sell mugs at farmers markets. Because those things make me happy and I don't need your approval to live my life. We wouldn't want you to change, my mother said. You're the only one of us who actually figured out what matters. We left the restaurant together, walking out into the cool evening air. My family's cars were lined up in the valet section. A Mercedes, a BMW, a Tesla, a Lexus. My Subaru was in the public lot 2 blocks away. Do you want a ride to your car? Jennifer offered. I'll walk, I said. It's a nice night. Sarah, my mother called as I turned to go. Board meeting is next Thursday at 10 a.m. I'll have my assistant send you the details and materials. I'll be there, I said. I walked to my car, climbed in and sat for a moment before starting the engine. My phone buzzed. A message from Douglas Pemberton. That was the most dramatic liquidation order I've received in 30 years. Glad you canceled it. Though I have to ask, were you really going to follow through? I typed back, absolutely. They needed to understand that family means more than net worth. Well played, Douglas responded. Your grandfather would be proud. I drove home to my rental house, a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood where I had a detached garage I'd converted into my ceramics studio. Inside, I changed into old jeans and a paint-splattered t-shirt, tied back my hair and went out to the studio. I had a commission to finish. A custom tea set for a client willing to pay $3,000 for handmade ceramics. Not because she knew I was worth hundreds of millions, but because she valued the quality of my work. As I centered clay on the wheel and began to shape it, I thought about the evening. About my family's shock and subsequent contrition. About the board seat I'd finally claimed. About the respect I'd finally demanded. But mostly I thought about what Grandpa had told me 16 years ago when he transferred that money into my account. Money is a tool, Sarah, he'd said. Use it to build the life you want, not the life other people expect. And remember, real wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in knowing yourself well enough to choose happiness over approval. I'd chosen happiness. I'd chosen ceramics and craft fairs and a simple life that brought me genuine joy. And when my family had pushed too hard, I'd used Grandpa's tool exactly as he'd intended, to show them that their approval was worthless compared to my peace of mind. My phone buzzed again. A group text from Jennifer to all the siblings. Family dinner next month at my place. Sarah, please come. And bring some of your ceramics. I'd like to buy a set for my dining room. I smiled and typed back, I'll be there. And I'll bring a catalog. Thomas replied, can you bring that business analysis you mentioned? The one about emerging markets? Michael added, and maybe we could schedule some time to talk about the manufacturing division? I think we're missing some opportunities. I set down my phone and returned to my wheel, shaping clay with practiced hands. Tomorrow I'd be a board member at a billion-dollar company. Tonight I was a ceramicist making a teapot. And both of those things were exactly who I wanted to be. Outside my studio window, the sun had set completely, leaving the sky scattered with stars. Inside, my hands worked the clay into something beautiful and functional. Something that would bring someone joy long after tonight's drama had faded into memory. That, I thought as I shaped the final curve of the teapot spout, was what success really looked like. Not designer suits or expensive cars or corner offices. But the freedom to create beauty, the courage to choose authenticity, and the strength to demand respect from people who should have given it freely all along. Grandpa had given me the tools. Tonight I'd finally used them. And tomorrow I'd show my family what happened when you combined $290 million in investment capital with someone who actually understood that money was meant to serve life, not the other way around. I finished the teapot at midnight, carefully lifting it from the wheel and setting it aside to dry. In 2 days it would be ready for its first firing. In a week I'd glaze it. And in 2 weeks, my client would receive a handmade tea set worth every penny of her $3,000 commission. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from my mother. Thank you for giving us another chance. Your grandfather chose well when he trusted you with his legacy. I'm sorry it took us so long to see it. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I cleaned my workspace, washed my hands, and made myself a cup of tea in one of my own handmade mugs. A simple piece with a blue glaze that had turned out exactly as I'd hoped. Only then did I type back. Grandpa taught me that family is worth fighting for. Even when they don't make it easy. My mother's response came quickly. We'll try to make it easier from now on. I hoped that was true. But even if it wasn't, I knew something my family had forgotten and was just beginning to relearn. Real success wasn't measured in dollars or titles or designer labels. It was measured in the ability to live authentically, to choose substance over appearance, and to know that your worth came from within, not from the approval of others. And I was successful by every measure that mattered. I finished my tea, turned off the studio lights, and walked back to my house. Tomorrow would bring board meetings and investment decisions and family dynamics that would take years to fully repair. But tonight I was just Sarah. Ceramicist, investor, granddaughter, and finally recognized member of a family that had taken far too long to understand what Grandpa had known all along. That I was exactly who I needed to be.